Farley with Electric Lab. Today we're going to talk about conduit bending, and this is based on our new conduit bending book. And what we're going to be covering is the core principles of conduit bending, some history, a little background on conduit bending, hand bending and mechanical bending, and try to get you ready to get out in the lab and do some pipe bending. So let's get started. Introduction to conduit bending. And as you can see in this slide, there's a lot of pipe here. There's a lot of concentric bends, which is bends that are running directly together. That is something that we do not cover in this book. I want to say that up front, although we do use a lot of pictures as reference. And this book is based on the core principles and the basics of conduit bending. Concentric bending and bending like this, I think, would be and will be in a more advanced version of the book. So, conduit bending is the process of shaping electrical conduit to fit various angles and bends required for installation. It involves calculating and determining the correct dimensions and angles to ensure the conduit run fits smoothly without kinks or excessive bends. There are many types of conduit. There is IMC, intermediate metallic conduit, FMC, or flexible metal conduit, and LFMC, liquid tight flexible metal conduit, and PVC, or rigid polyvinyl chloride conduit. All of these are identified very clearly in the National Electrical Code, of course, and this is just to name a few. EMT conduit, or electrical metallic tubing, is the most common type used. In the 1930s, Jack Benfield developed the mathematical process of bending angles and applied this method to the markings on the first reliable bender, the Benfield bender. He would travel around cities and teach electricians how to use his product and then sell them his benders. And here's an example of one of his benders. Jack Benfield was an entrepreneur in the marketing of EMT. This type of conduit was created by Republic Steel Corporation. Jack was part of the six-man team that covered the U.S. working to advance this product. They were called the EMT Flying Squad. Today's technology. So today there are a wide variety of brands to choose from, though many of the features are quite the same. Tools for conduit bending have expanded from the basic hand bender to the mechanical or Chicago-style bender to the hydraulic and even electric benders, all designed to improve accuracy, speed, and ergonomics of the electrician's workload. Now, some of the tools that you're going to need. And first of all, I'll say these are all of just some examples. When it comes to tools, like anything else, there's always lots of other different types that can be purchased. There's always a better tool coming out there. The tool market is ever expanding. But for hand and mechanical bending, here are some basic tools needed. And this, considering that the focus here is EMT hand and mechanical bending. You have just a level which actually can be screwed onto the tip of the conduit reamer, and of course a tape measure. And on this slide we have the PVC bender, or also called a hot box, and there is the bandsaw. Now some of you might be thinking, well, what about the hacksaw? I did not depict a hacksaw in the presentation here because I believe that although there is still a use for it on the job site, it's still being used today. I think generally speaking, electricians who are out there running pipe on a daily basis are more than likely using a tool similar to this, whether it be DeWalt or Milwaukee or whoever, whatever your favorite brand is, but they're probably using something like this for speed and ease of the job. Now, the safety plan. Of course, we have to have a safety plan when we're doing anything, but especially when we're running conduit. So, as with any construction site work, safety must be at the forefront of one's thinking, and of course prior to the start of the work. Use of conduit cutting tools, benders, and similar equipment can be very dangerous if not used correctly. Conduit benders have been known to be utilized in an unorthodox manner to achieve certain pressure to make bends, without realizing the created hazard when doing so. And notice in this picture, as you'll see in the book also, this same photo is in there, how the person here is using the bender, got his face down there in front of the pipe, his safety glasses, or actually those may be sunglasses, or on his hat, protecting his hat but not protecting his eyeballs. The PPE shown above should always be used. Of course, appropriate footwear, appropriate headgear, safety glasses, and of course, gloves are always a good idea. Conduit bending ergonomics. So conduit bending is a very physical act. One must use caution not only when using the necessary tools, but when negotiating the task itself. Being efficient will, of course, lead to quicker installations, but keep in mind the potential for physical injury. Bending conduit must be done on flat and level areas. That's going to aid in accuracy also. Unstable areas such as on scaffolding or elevated platforms are not recommended. The area needs to be clear, and debris such as excessive materials, rock, or other such things must be removed prior to starting the process. You also want to avoid bending on surfaces like that or getting anything inside of the pipe that could cause damage later when you're pulling wire in it. Now, introducing the National Electrical Code and conduit bending. This is Chapter 3, of course. Article 358 of the NEC, electrical metallic tubing. And as I said, we could have went a lot of different ways with this book, but we addressed what I believe is the common core of conduit bending, and that is bending pipe with using EMT. So Article 358 of the NEC covers the installation of EMT. It clearly states that when bending the conduit, the bends must be made so that damage does not occur, resulting in kinks or reduction of the diameter of the conduit. Obviously, the space inside of that conduit is what the tables are based on in the NEC that determine how many conductors you can install in a conduit. Furthermore, there cannot be more than the equivalent of 4 quarter bends, totaling 360 degrees, between pull points. Conduit bodies, junction boxes, or other access components creating pull points must be used. Article 358.30a states that EMT conduit must be securely fastened in place at intervals not to exceed 10 feet. It must also be securely fastened within 3 feet of each outlet box, junction box, device box, cabinet, conduit body, or other tubing termination. Horizontal runs of EMT supported by openings through framing members at intervals not greater than 10 feet and securely fastened within 3 feet of termination points is permitted. Okay, so now we're getting down to the hand bender. As I said, we'll cover the hand bender and the mechanical bender. And I'll say this, hand bending is one method. The mechanical bending, or what we'll cover will be essentially the Chicago style bender, is the other method. We won't be getting into motorized benders or hydraulic benders. In the variety of methods available today for conduit bending, the hand bender is still a primary tool being used. The principal methods do not vary much but from brand to brand, and once this skill is mastered, consistently accurate bends can be made. And what we've given here is just an example of 3 different brands, and going from left to right, that's an Ideal brand bender. Very good bender. That's what we've got in our labs right now. The bender in the middle, which is a Milwaukee bender, and I've just purchased one of those recently. I've been very impressed with it. And then the bender on the right is a Southwire bender. Of course, there's lots of other brands out there. Gardner benders, Klein Tools have got benders out there. It's just a matter of what's your favorite brand, I suppose. And we've tried to represent several different brands in the book and in this presentation, rather than kind of just being stuck on one. But generally speaking, they're all pretty much the same. Hand bender shoe markings. And this, of course, is shown in the book, the same graphic, and this is giving you some very important points of what the markings are on the bending shoe. You don't understand these, you're going to have a very difficult time getting your bends done correctly. Using the correct markings or not using the correct markings. What I have seen from teaching conduit bending for the last 15, 20 years, I would say is one of the key reasons why bends go bad. The markings on the hand bender shoe and understanding their specific uses is crucial to accurate bending. Of course, you have the stub height, the arrow, center of bend rim notches, the star point, and then, of course, the angle marks. Notice the teardrop marking on this bender. Rim notches or teardrop symbols denote the center of a 45-degree bend. Should make a note of that. And hand bender handle marking, excuse me. So just about all benders now have a lot of the data that you need on the handle of the bender. As you can see here, they've got the offset table. There's even, I'll go as far as to say there are apps out there also for certain brands of benders, that put that kind of information in your pocket. A lot of electricians may carry around a little card that has that information on them. Once you've been bending for quite a while, then you just memorize it. But most benders have this information on them, so if you're questioning what you're doing at the time, you can take a quick look at the handle and find it. The problem with that is that after a bender's bounced around in the gang box or around the back of a van or truck, those markings or these labels on here tend to get damaged. It is quite common that some of the formulas needed for bending are placed on the handle of the bender for convenience. It is best to have an alternate reference, as over the time decals with this information may become damaged.